The jury at the inquest into the shooting death of Michael MacIsaac is now mulling over recommendations. More than 40 were submitted to them by lawyers. They can add to them or take away. At court today, MacIsaac's family said they hope this will prevent other deaths like his.
It was nice to see some of the truth come out. And it was a very difficult process, wasn't it, Mom?
Yes, it was very difficult. I just hope that the recommendations will be looked at instead of collecting dust.
Among the recommendations, better training around de-escalation for officers and putting more body-worn cameras into use, along with more cameras inside patrol cars. MacIsaac was shot dead by Durham police in December 2013 after running naked from his Ajax home. He was carrying a metal table leg. Police have been cleared of any wrongdoing. Shannon Martin is back with us now. She'll be covering the inquest, or she has been covering it from day one. Jennifer Chambers is also here with her. She's the executive director of the Empowerment Council. And Jennifer, let's start with you. Thank you for joining us. You've sat in now on 10 inquests. What makes this one particularly challenging?
It's a police service that we haven't attended before, so we need to sort of start from scratch, trying to get them to involve people in their education who've had personal experience of crisis, to get them to expand the kind of education and amount of education they do in de-escalation, who's involved in working on role-play scenarios with officers so they can practice what they're doing. So the trouble with Ontario is it's a hodgepodge of education, so every region has different things they teach their officers.
All right, and Shannon, lawyers have outlined a number of recommendations. The big focus here, of course, on mental health. Take us through them.
So there's about 38, and this is the package that the jury received today. Lawyers then could add a couple more, so it's more than 40. When you go through the document, more than half of the recommendations mention mental health or a person in crisis. And I think Jennifer, a lot of this echoes what her organization has said. So one of the recommendations emphasized the need to create time and space during a police interaction, because we know Michael MacIsaac was shot within 12 seconds of police arriving on scene. Another one talking about that standard police phrase we hear, drop the weapon, and shouting it. So they're saying when someone is in crisis, let's learn other diffusing strategies. So maybe it's not 3 officers at once shouting. If somebody's not able to communicate with you, maybe it's lowering your voice and asking questions instead of just shouting repeatedly.
And that's one of the common themes we see in here, what you mentioned off the top, just the time it takes from arrival to the first shot being fired. And Jennifer, just your reaction then to these recommendations. I feel like we've heard them before, though.
We have heard very similar ones before. We'd like there to be police education by people who've experienced crisis so that they can get a better understanding of what it means to interact with people in a trauma-informed way. Like if you assume that people are survivors of trauma, with most people with mental health issues are, then you'd realize that yelling at them, for example, is only going to make things worse. It's only going to escalate things. What you need is calm and compassion and the ability to connect with the person so that they can let their defenses down, stop being aggressive because they feel like they have to defend themselves, and actually be able to hear what the officer is saying.
And Shannon, the family had a pretty bold recommendation of their own today.
They have been vocal since this happened. You'll remember they did their own private investigation. They had a forensic scientist look at evidence. And outside the coroner's court today, Joanne MacIsaac, Michael's sister, said they would actually like to see frontline officers have no access to guns. And they said, you know, instead you could follow the UK model and have task force that have guns. So it's something bold. It wasn't one of the recommendations that came out, though, in the inquest.
It couldn't come out because it wasn't evidence as part of the inquest.
Yes,
but
it wasn't part of it in this case.
But something that was recommended was the use of shields, which is what they do a lot more in the UK, so that they can stay safe, and that gives them the time to actually de-escalate somebody.
Just got a little bit of time left, but Jennifer, I want to put the last question to you. We heard what Michael MacIsaac's mom said in our clip there. She doesn't want these recommendations to just sit on a shelf and gather dust. How confident are you that some of these things may actually be implemented?
Well, I think we've had 2 inquests following one right on the other.
Yes,
that
from Loku to this one.
Yeah, both of them have recommended a few things that are Ontario-wide and a few things directed at the ministry. So I think that if it gets traction with the ministry, for example, if the ministry provides resources so this education can actually happen, then it will happen. Without that, I don't think it's going to get anywhere. Because we've been getting good recommendations, but there's no means of delivering them.
Yeah, something needs to happen so we stop having these tragedies, especially when people are in distress like this. Thank you both.
Thank you.